make the batteries though, and then you just use a flash. You have to do it where they're in the back bit so that you can't see. No, you just move it around, but you can't see if they're there. If you're talking about there. Look at that. Big fat man. And then see me. Look, over here. Look. Oh, you're doing that? Yeah.
Can we have a space for the camera?
So you have to wait for the...
Can we have a space for the camera?
Oh yeah, I'm in your way. Can you see yourself? Stand to the side then.
John Costa, the editor of Citizen's Eye, and we're here at Fabrica, Independent Arts Centre, with Sean Clark. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Good, good. Well, thanks for agreeing to talk to us, Sean, and show us this fantastic Interact gallery you've got here. Tell us a little bit about how you came up with the idea and what we can see, and then maybe we'll go for a bit of a walk around.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, I suppose the idea started earlier in the year with a conversation between myself and Adam, who runs the Fabrica Arts Centre. I needed somewhere to exhibit a new series of pieces of work that I was producing for my research. I'm doing a PhD at Montford University. And I had a word with Adam about using the space up here, and we thought, yeah, we can adapt it, we can install my work in it, but if we're going to put that effort in, why not turn it into a gallery that could show other people's work as well? So the plan really is that we'll start with what you see here, which is my work, and in a month or two we'll start changing pieces, adding other people's work and so on, and by the end of a year it'll be all fresh work. The artwork will be predominantly interactive art, but we use the term interactive very loosely. It could be work that's been produced with an audience, particular audience in mind by people themselves. It could be images of interactive work, like some of mine here, or it could be like many of the pieces here, computer-based work that encourages people to participate.
Brilliant. Now let's have a quick look at this picture behind you, because this is how it used to look up here. Just wait for it to focus. Yeah. And now we're gonna turn around. Obviously you've got that screen there, and this is where you come up the stairs. up to the gallery. So let's spin round and show people what it actually looks like now. It's been a fantastic amount of work that's gone into it. So if you lead on, Sean, then what we'll do is follow, and then maybe talk us through what you've gone for and stuff.
Done some amazing work, and the rest of the team here at Fabrica. This space is literally unrecognisable. What he's built is a cube, really, a framework with false walls. Now this is great for digital artists because a lot of the things that we work with use computers and cables and so on. The false wall allows us to hide all the cables out of the way, so that it does look a lot more like a conventional gallery. You won't see wires everywhere, even though you've got screens. We frame them, Adam's framed them so they look interesting. Well, more like pictures really. Now the work on display, I've got a number of pieces here, and like I say, this comes out of, for me, a number of years of research. We've got a highly interactive screen over here.
Okay, let's just walk over to that one and then we'll be able to capture a little bit of it, yeah.
Now as soon as you go in the picture, it'll change, so you'll see yourself in there.
There we go.
So this is based on a piece that some people might have seen at Phoenix Square earlier in the year, but it combines images of the viewers, ourselves, with images of natural systems such as plants and trees and so on. So the idea is that you interact and feel part of this sort of dynamic collage, this moving collage. We also have on this wall, which is a very, very flexible space, we can reconfigure this how we want to. Selection of images from my research where I've been looking at natural forms and shapes, so the classic fern structure here, how the bark of a tree looks like flowing water, and then here we have images that spontaneously appeared on my studio window last winter, which is ice crystal patterns. We have trees or leaves here, and you've got wonderful cells and so on, and then the forms of clouds. And even though all of my work is typically digital, these are the sorts of things that inspire me, the sorts of shapes I'm interested in. So over on the far wall there, we have some stills from the installation of what was called the mirror.
The mirror, wasn't it?
That's right. These are images from the Phoenix Square installation. And then behind you over here, we have some new work. This is a series for a
now
series.
people will recognise this from your cards, won't
That's
they?
right, yeah.
And you're saying it's quite a recognisable image now, isn't it? You see these around the place,
right, yeah.
and the one red one in the middle.
That's right. That's the creative one. That's the one that's emerged out of all the uniformity, and it's going to be the one that changes the pattern in the future. This piece here is an interactive version of that image. What you'll see is as you move left and right, the shapes spin in response to your position. Now what that means is that they all slowly get out of sync. They started off spinning all in the same way, but after a while they spin out of sync. And because they're a bit like little op art patterns, you start to see, when you look at this, you start to see little patterns emerge as well. I'm doing a lot of work on these, what I call moving pictures. I want to create moving portraits that as you move around, the portrait responds to you. There are other versions of this, more abstract version and so on. So hopefully in here, at some point, I'll have an exhibition purely of moving pictures. They're all triggered actually by a little video camera above the main screen here. So the video camera watches where you are and changes the image accordingly.
Now this space, what do you think it does for people like yourself who are interested in this kind of interactive digital art? It changes it completely, doesn't it? Because really it's a dedicated space for you to almost experiment as well. It's almost like a lab, isn't it?
Exactly, that is very much what we're after. The idea is to create an experimental space, but also a space that's accessible. So it feels like a gallery. Someone who's never looked at digital art before can come in, have a look at the work, and maybe they can make sense of it. We've got supporting materials that describe the pieces, and in my case, what I'm trying to achieve. So yeah, it's about experimentation, most definitely, about accessibility. And also, for digital artists, it's about giving us a space where our work can stay for a long period of time. A lot of these pieces, they change over time. So the piece I showed you first of all, I can already see, I saw briefly then, that my image from then was part of that bigger image. So the feel of them changes. You need a decent run, a decent amount of time to allow these things to evolve. Likewise, the moving picture here will change over time, depending on who's interacted with it.
And it's open all the time. Whenever Fabrica's open, people can come up and actually have a look around.
Our hours are 10:30 till 5, but probably runs a bit later most days. And then we'll have special events that run in the evenings and at weekends.
Brilliant. Sean, thanks very much.
Right, I'm going to give you a tour of the Symbiotic Exhibition, which is a collaboration between myself and Genetic Moo. We could start by looking at the piece here, which is a classic Genetic Moo piece made up of little creatures that are composed of body parts. Now, this isn't interactive as such, but it will generate itself over time. So it's out here just to sort of draw people in, hopefully. But let's go into the main gallery. Okay, before I wander in, let's just have a little listen. Now, at the moment you can hear the cockatoo sending out a little call. One of my red spinner artworks is doing the same. Let's see how it changes when we enter the space. So I'm going to start by walking in on this side. And one of the first things that happens is as soon as I enter the space here, the blue food for the ants starts to appear, and what we see on here are lots of little white ants all going around feeding on this blue. Now at the same time, across the space, my blue spinner artwork is starting to feed on this blue as well, so it's sort of come alive and it's not making a great deal of sound, but it's starting to move. At the same time as that, I'm also able to interact with the piece that I called Whale, which is a version of my memory mirror, which allows you to interact with your own image. And it also has a memory, and previous people who've interacted with it will start to appear. So I'm starting to see images now of its memory. Now that memory will consist of people who've interacted with it, but also images from the space itself. It's fed by both interaction and images in the space. So let's wander over to the blue spinner. Now, as I get a bit closer, I'm able to bring it alive. Now, it's particularly interested in blue light. Now, white light contains quite a lot of blue, so if I sort of do this waving motion, I can try and see if I can get it to spot some white light. There we go. And that should hopefully illuminate me enough to keep it running at that agitated state. So you can hear it. It's going quite fast. It's slowed down again. Let's try and put my hands up. And this piece now comes alive. I can actually trigger this one by letting it look at the blue food when there is some, but also if I stand here, even though I might think I'm interacting with this piece, the whale, I'm also interacting with this piece because it starts to trigger some light and movement. Now if you wander over, we can also look at the Starfish, which is a little interactive organism produced by Genetic Moo. Now as I put my arms in the air and out, the starfish will start animating. This is all triggered by the Connect up here, and it also generates sound. If I move over to this side, we have what I call the red spinner. Now, for a reason I haven't yet worked out, this likes to stay in a quite agitated state all the time, but I can calm it down by covering its camera, and it will now completely go to sleep. Okay, but now as soon as it sees me, it comes back to life. And this is meant to work in a similar way to the blue spinner in that if I'm close to it, the light from it will create a little feedback loop, but if I'm further away, in fact it's doing it quite nicely now, it goes a bit quieter. Now by entering this point here, I've also triggered the red food, which is being used by the ants. And the red food is just about enough to get the red spinner to to start animating. Now, if I go back to the red spinner, as I get closer, the more light that reflects off of me activates it. Like I say, this is slightly unpredictable, this piece. There we go, I managed to get it in its highly agitated mode. Move over here. See, it's carried on. We don't know why, but it's an interesting little surprise. Now, one of the main pieces, or the main piece in many respects, is this artwork that's called Cockatoo. Now, it's based on a cockatoo squid, and it's an artwork that's been designed and implemented by Genetic Moo. Now, the reason I say it's one of the main pieces is that the sound from this piece is the dominant sound in the space. In fact, you just heard it whistle then. What it can do is it repeats sounds that it hears in its own voice. So my red spinner artwork, as I mentioned, often makes a lot of sound, and you hear the cockatoo repeating the sound in its own voice. Now, if I can whistle just at the right time, I'll get it to copy me instead. Now you'll also see that the cockatoo, if I can try and get in its line of sight, its body will start to take on the colours of the other artworks and the people in the room. Now at the moment, I'll try getting it to come a bit closer. But I can just about see some, well here we go, it's now starting to move a bit towards me. If I keep moving around, I'll try and trigger it. Now it will take on the colours of the whale when there's no one around. If there's a person around, it will try and take on the colours of them. Now, my shirt in this slightly red light should hopefully start triggering some red activity. Oh, I've got a bit of blue, which is coming from the artwork still. You have to sort of play with it a little bit, try and find out any hot spots that it likes. Now, of course, while I've been interacting with the cockatoo, I've also been generating food for the red ants. Now, as the red ants move around, they eat the food and they leave a sort of yellow residue behind, so the amount of red decreases. They also create these little pheromone trails which lead up to the grill up here. And again, this is another Genetic Moo piece. One of the differences really between my style of work and Genetic Moo's is that their artwork is very clearly inspired by living systems in a visual way, whereas I'm certainly inspired by living systems, but I tend to be a bit more abstract. So my spinners are both meant to be similar to living systems in that as soon as food arrives, they start to consume it. And the whale piece, like a living system, is always shaped by its environment and the previous interactions. And so the artwork takes on a form which is unpredictable, although it's within a set of boundaries over time. So now, as I just do a final move around, I can hear a sound from here. Let's do some interaction with this piece. The right sort of distance. No, it's decided to go to sleep. Now I've managed to wake it up. And let's go over here. And see if I can get the light. There we go. I'm able to generate sound and much faster activity in this piece. Now, this is a good distance to stand from it. And then again, I'm now interacting with the whale, but at the same time I'm producing enough blue to trigger a piece over here, but I've also, by being in this spot, I've triggered the production of food, so the ants are now getting active again. So the idea being that at any one point you're probably interacting with 2 or 3 artworks, but the artworks are also interacting with each other as well. And so I've termed this way of working as an ecology of digital art. I would like to get to the point where these behave like small living ecologies, with different elements feeding each other and responding to each other. And I will see at the end of my evaluation period how close I managed to get to that. Okay, thank you.